Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Afeni, the great Malabite.
Good morning, Victoria, Tundu, MKO, Aviola.
Good morning.
Yes, sitting in well, in pink, for the one and only Robin Abati. You're doing a great job.
Thank
Good
you.
morning, Rufa.
What is that?
Yes, let's start the review. Well, let's start the review with this day. Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story. In the last 12 years, Nigeria's electricity grid suffered over 222 partial total collapse. Ministry advocates purchase of SCADA system. Experts blame archaic, obsolete grid system. Report says sub-Saharan Africa loses up to $28 billion in GDP to power collapse. Yes, the sad story of the power sector in Nigeria, despite all the unbundling, all the privatization of the DISCOs, the GENCOs, we still have a sad story of this collapse. Of course, in this year alone, that has become a very familiar refrain in our discourse. And Nigerians groping in darkness, industries battling to provide their power source. Of course, with diesel, so the price of diesel so high now, we all now realize that there's limit to provision of private power by companies, by individuals, and sectors of the economy that are suffering under this. Now, we've been told that the main problem is that of software, and we had to acquire SCADA. But one of the problems the Siemens deal is supposed to solve is about this grid issue. But it's like that Siemens deal is taking a lifetime to accomplish. We hope before long something will be done. All hands will be on deck to ensure that we accomplish that contract for which the late Abakari traveled and contracted COVID and eventually died. So much for our power problems. But if we just look at other stories quickly, now the Guardian newspaper, governors advise on leaner public service rattles labor expert. Cash staff governor seeking premature retirement for selfish reason. Move will demoralize workers, affect productivity. Federal government cannot be trusted with payment of severance benefits. Incentivize organized private sector to revitalize economy. Government urge workers to demand inflationary adjusted pay rise. Yes, it's happening in other parts of the world. So it will not be a new thing. More so, the minimum wage that was approved after many years of engagement and strikes has since been overtaken by inflation, devaluation of the naira. So if Nigerian workers are asking for inflation-adjusted pay rise, I'm sure I will be in the front of that quest by Nigerian workers. But this story, governors suggested that the federal government should reduce its workforce. And one of the panacea to that is that every civil servant above the age of 50 should go. And when they go, will you be able to pay their severance package?
This is the issue.
What about institutional memory? You just yank off, once you're over 50, you go. Whether you are useful to the system or not, you keep 50 years, even and below, even if you are just $1 sitting somewhere in the ministry. We keep you because you are 50 years. Governors should put on some thinking cap and come up with better arguments, solutions to the myriad of problems. And would you want to do that? President Muhammadu Buhari would take 6 months to appoint minister, will sack 50 and above between now and May 29.
It's not going to happen.
But that's not going to happen.
And I'm shocked that the government...
But if they are talking of John Rosaye report that talks about merging and collapsing of some MDAs. Well, maybe that's something that should be looked at, but a lot has to be done in that direction because many of these MDAs are creations of the law. So you cannot just merge them without amending the relevant laws, as it were.
Okay, maybe after this, I would like to comment on that particular story.
Okay.
Because I'm sure governors are
yes, let's look at the Daily Independent newspaper. 20 trillion naira Ways and Means model CBN's price stability mandate. Yes, the CBN has been printing money, to put it in a simple layman's term, and borrowing same to the federal government to help, of course, supposedly, ease the tight financial position of the federal government. But this in itself has created problem. And to the extent that as at the end of June 2022, the CBN had extended a total of 19.9 trillion, about 20 trillion naira in loans to the federal government under the Ways and Means provision included in the CBN Act. In fact, this day reporting a similar story yesterday was talking about that apart from the 41 trillion naira public debt, federal government owes CBN $47 billion, according to reports. Well, is the CBN helping the federal government, or the CBN is compounding the problem? I'm sure that will be the matter of a matter of seminal discourse, how not to help the federal government or how to help the federal government. I'll leave that and just move on to other stories. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, Buhari's minister under fire over scrutiny, over insecurity as a strike. Afeni Fere, Ohaneze, MBF, others say federal government can't borrow to fund positions. ASU position is senseless. Yes, the Minister of State for Labor, Festus Keyamo, yes, he's been speaking very lately. And, well, many of the things he has said, you need to, like turning reason on his head, if you will. Yes, because talking about federal government should beg ASU. What is the federal government putting on the table for ASU to consider so that we cannot beg ASU to please accept this for now? We have to be serious in this country. It's not just a matter of a minister going out and saying, oh, let's beg ASU. After 6 months of strike, and that's all you could offer. Not how to solve the solution that federal government cannot borrow to fund education, but federal government can borrow to pay salaries, to do even less important aspects of our life. But education is fundamental. University students cannot be sitting at home. I feel for these students. Many of these leaders, they enjoy the university system, funded, subsidized by the federal government. I did too. But if I were in government, I won't treat the students the way they are being treated now. It's a shame. It's a shame. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper called data cost double. Federal government invokes new telecom tax. Telcos, others kick, say policy on fair ill time. While communications minister opposed proposed exercise. We are consulting on implementation, finance ministry. Yes, the Business Day newspaper, hotels rebound to pre-pandemic levels. Rising cost, inflation, seen meeting second half. Hotels are also, they are coming back to their pre-pandemic state. But again, they have to deal with a lot of cost. Because if you have only 2 guests, you still run your generator in those hotels. And it's not funny for many who own these facilities. The Punch newspaper, no going back on Buhari's impeachment, aggrieved lawmakers as saying, impeachment threat not withdrawn, insecurity still persists. Deputy Minority Whip, we will remove Lawan if he blocks president's removal. Osun senator insists. APC senators tired of defending Buhari on insecurity. Benue senator Jeff. Now the Nation newspaper, yes, Wike's camp slams Atiku over divide and rule in PDP. Governor tightens hold on Rivers chapter. We are resolving the rift, says Jibrin. How general influence or coward's choice? Yes, generals who are members of the PDP, I want to believe, oh my, power should shift to the south. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, act fast to save the economy. NECA, that's Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, and the NESG, tax federal government, says energy crisis, forest scarcity, falling currency, insecurity, bleeding economy. All federal government to resolve challenges with holistic approach. So President Muhammadu Buhari is listening to that. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper declares state of emergency on varsity education to end strikes. OAU, ex-OAU VC telling the federal government. Now, the foreign newspapers quickly, the Times of London, get inflation down before cutting tax. Voters urged, yes, warning to Truss over cost of living fears. Yes, Liz Truss, tax cut issues. That cutting tax is not the silver bullet that will solve all the problem. And 2/3 of voters in that YouGov poll are saying, please, you have to fix, take care of the cost of living first before you're even talking of tax cut. Because tax cut on its own may not just solve all the problems. So it's a warning to Liz Truss, whose campaign seems to have been hinged on cutting tax. But Rishi Sunak will unfold his own plan to at least bring some succor to the British citizens, especially in the winter. It's coming out with a package that will also deal with the cost of energy, as well as extend some support to households that are struggling in the UK. Now, the New York Times Senate vote put climate action in reach. Urgent response is 5 decades in making bill. Also tackles taxes and cost of drugs. Yes, the Senate passed the climate and health measures bill. Of course, party line approval. And well, maybe some good news for President Joe Biden taking into the midterm election.
Great news for him.
Yeah.
Because his approval rating was in the doldrums. Last time I checked, it was 39% approval. He needed this shot in the arm, and I hope it works out for him. As for Liz Truss, that YouGov poll, I don't know how indicative it is, because it's not the general public that's voting between Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, is it? It's the Tory party. And the Tory newspaper, Daily Telegraph, just threw their weight behind Liz Truss, in spite of what she's dismissing as abacus economics from the Treasury. I have no idea what she means by that. Because the facts are the facts. The tax cut is not, like you said, the silver bullet. And she keeps harping on that. I don't know what's really going to happen and whether or not she can actually deliver that, because, you know, the reality when she does assume the office might dictate otherwise. And then there might be a backlash.
This poll, yes, you say it's a general poll, but it's an indicator of what the people want. Yes, Tories are going to vote for their leadership, but if you are pushing a program that will not solve the people's problem, I don't know how the party...
But this is the thing. So from day one, it hasn't really been popular with the general populace. But the Tories continue to line up behind Liz Truss. Her lead over Rishi Sunak just expands every day at this point. So I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, maybe just because they don't like Rishi Sunak.
Yes.
So my fear for the Tories... Anyway, I'm not a member of the Tory. I don't care for the Tory. But my fear for the Tories party is this: that they will make it so easy for Keir Starmer to be the next Prime Minister of UK after the elections. That's what they're going to do.
It's looking like
because
that.
Out of sentiment and out of the fact that they feel that Rishi Sunak betrayed Boris Johnson, they're lining behind Liz Truss, which is honestly, and if this has been empirical, a weak candidate. A weak candidate that doesn't know her economics, that flip-flop on her economics. That Financial Times question, she didn't see it coming. So she couldn't plan an answer they had not told her. So she mumbled it up. Then she's pushing this idea of a tax cut that we all know is not feasible. a tax cut that will cost the British government to pay extra £30 billion of money they don't have.
Of 30 billion.
30 billion pounds.
How do you feel that hole?
And you still
No
have
answer.
And she's talking about abacus.
I
don't even get it.
You still have a pending hole of over 300 billion pounds that you took for COVID.
For the furlough scheme and what have you.
That doesn't make economic sense, and you keep on pushing it because they told you push is a populist agenda. So let them continue. I'm sure a certain Keir Starmer will I'm sure he's got things to campaign on already. Because I'm sure he will talk about this tax cost, he will talk about, how dumb the idea is and all of that. And okay, let's just wait and see how all of this pans out. Secondly, I wanted to talk about the civil servant thing. And it's really important, and I'm shocked that you said our governor said that. And it's a good thing. You talked about institutional memory. We all saw when,
Is that proposal?
We all saw when in the 70s in this country, a certain Murtala Mohammed,
the purge of the civil service,
tried to purge the civil service, and we are still suffering for it till date.
We'll never recover.
In fact, we'll never recover from what that purge of the civil service did to our civil service. Nigerian civil service practices that used to be sparkling. We had the likes of Simon Adebo, we had Super Pamsex and the likes that served in our civil service. They were respected. But since that purge, we have not gotten it right. So something that happened close to 50 years ago is still affecting the civil service, and you still want to purge the remainder.
Just using age.
Yes, and you see, it is even that purge that made it difficult for bright stars, people that went to Oxford, that they like to stop coming to our civil service. Because prior to the 70s, someone that naturally went to school abroad in top universities like Oxford and the likes would like to go to the civil service of Nigeria.
Because that's what they do in England.
Because that's what they do in England. But when you check, since that purge, because of the uncertainty it brought, and another thing that purge did was what democratized corruption in the civil service. Because the civil servants now started feeling that, if somebody can come and purge us out, just like that, then why don't we start to steal and keep for ourselves?
Well, no justification for stealing.
No justification.
No
justification for stealing and losing the system. But that was also because, you see, when people work, we all call something called job security. We want job security. So that also affected the job security. I think the way to go is a systematic approach. How about tuning the civil service? Making it more technologically compliant. Letting productivity and KPIs be the order of the day. Because once you do that, automatically, those that can't fit in and that can't be retrained will have to come out of the system. And then those that don't measure up, why don't you absorb them into a retraining scheme and a future preparation and awareness scheme? And also use them as a conduit to liberalize the economy. You see, because all of this we are saying that people are running to the civil service is because we don't have a lot of production going on in the economy and productive tendencies. There are so many sectors of Nigeria economy that has not even woken up. All right? Even in the services sector, you'll be amazed that there are so much areas of consultancy that will still bring people from abroad to come and do. But you can push these people with prerequisite experience and all of that. A clear area is government documentation. Do you know that today, a lot of people want to do government documentation, but they have not found a skilled consultancy to help them do it? People coming out of the civil service with the requisite skill of government documentation can set up $1 billion ecosystem from government documentation alone. And there are many fields like that will not even scratch the surface. There's a guy in Lagos that all he does is, if you want to renew your car license, he will send you a date and everything. He will come and take your car license, go help you renew. He's created an ecosystem from documentation on its own. And there are many systems like that. But it's just because we've not expanded the economy. And when we expand the economy, these same people can pay taxes. So there's so much to be done.
Before you even get to that, it will never stand up in court. Because you're 50 years old, you lose your job. It's discriminatory.
Yes, no.
So you're talking about so you're saying the next batch of, Philip Asiodus and Alison Aida, oh no, you turned 50 out. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes, no, the absurdity of this suggestion is that it's not even to create efficiency, but just a cost-cutting measure.
Yeah, just reduce the numbers. It doesn't make any sense at
costs.
all. And it's so arbitrary. Why 50?
I think where we should, you see, I've always said it. We want to cost cut. I know where we can get over 130 billion free money. Should I tell you?
Yeah.
The National Assembly. Take that money off the senators. The 15 million or 10 million or whatever they've not been able to disclose that they earn, let the National Assembly job be voluntary. You can just give them a running cost to repair their roof and the lights.
You have to amend the constitution. And who will amend the constitution?
No, we even need a unicameral legislation.
Yeah, so match them together. If you match them
houses.
together, at least you can save close to 100 billion. It's free money, because as far as I'm concerned, it's free money those people are going there to collect. Forget all the constituency projects. You can plow it down through the MDGs and the MDAs and all of that. Leave the National Assembly, free money. Take it off, that's 130 billion. Because you see, if we don't take those monies off them, that's why we are suffering business. Look at it now. You took a story, sir, that telecom prices are going up. Because the government wants to
raise more money.
And how much is the government raising from those telecom taxes to make it harder for people?
But you have to pay your legislatures. You have to, because if they're not paid, if it's voluntary, they will use their massive powers to create laws in their favor. That's the thing. It's just paying them modestly. You don't need to pay them to become like Pasha sitting around doing next to nothing. No, but they should be paid.
So even if they are paid modestly, at least it will still save something.
Yeah, they should be paid. And we only need a unicameral legislature.
At least we still save something.
Well, with all the amendments, nobody's talking in that direction.
And in
it's
fact,
so sad that
because it's the legislators who amend the constitution.
But this is why people don't love their country. You have to put your country first.
There's also even strong counter arguments to that point you made about paying them, Tundu. Because see, a lot of people argue in the UK, for instance, that the good old days where they were paying them next to nothing, rubbish money, crowd to the 70s or the 80s before they made the reform, that those were the days where they had legislators that really stood for integrity. That even now that you are paying them, I think it's about £60,000 a year, thereabouts.
Yeah.
That look at the MP's expenses claim scandal. That they were claiming big amount of nothing.
Yeah, but that's not because they're paid. That's because of sleaze in the system.
You get.
Okay, look at the American situation. The scandals with Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, and all the other ones who have become extremely rich using their insider knowledge and what they can get. So it's very important that they are paid. If they are not paid, then you give them an excuse. When they are paid, then they can then be prosecuted.
So at least, like Weoksi said, reduce the amount they are paying them, because I still feel that
some other salaries
is
fine.
too much.
I think
once you take that one
there
out,
should even be more transparency.
Yeah.
Because Nigerians cannot say for sure this is the amount.
We never see the line items, do we? The National Assembly reviews everybody's budget, but the rest of their budget is opaque.
They don't review their own.
Yes.
And because now, since we are not collecting money from petrol or from crude oil any longer, because of subsidies we are paying, now we are taxing businesses even more. That's why you want to be collecting 130 billion from telecom operators every year to be able to create for the shortfall in the FAC sharing. Because month on month now, over 60% of the money we are sharing in FAC is coming from taxes. So rather than stifle those businesses, if you cut a little bit, okay, let's say we cut over 50 billion, for instance, from the National Assembly, then you can get money to do many other things and make them unicameral legislature, as you said.
It's important.
Well, I don't know how soon we can do that.
Just ideas.
Because it's still legislators you expect to amend the constitution, but where they put self before nation, then you are not going to expect anything to change.
And other ways, they will still make money from other ways now.
Yes.
You know, they will be delegates.
Well, if we still have some time.
We
need to go. We need to go.
Thank you, Mr. Fanny.